Jonas Hale had always been drawn to the sea, not in the romantic, sun-kissed way people post about on Instagram, but in the quiet, obsessive way that made you give up parties and jobs and relationships just to feel the ocean's pulse beneath your feet. At 27, he had already kayaked across stretches of ocean that most people only knew from plain maps, vlogged hundreds of hours of marine pollution, and made a modest name for himself online as an eco-explorer with something to prove. But this time, he wasn't doing it for followers. He was doing it for truth. His goal was dangerous and strange, to cross the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, not sail around it, but paddle straight through the heart of it, solo. No support boat, no rescue line, just a GPS tracker, a kayak loaded with solar panels, and his own raw determination. People thought it was impossible. He wanted to prove it wasn't. The first few days were smooth. Open skies, slow swells, and the quiet company of flying fish. He filmed himself laughing into the salt wind, naming each day with the proud, simple label. Day 1, into the blue. Day 3, Jellyfish Alley. His followers cheered him on. Comments flooded in. The sun tanned his skin. He felt invincible. But on the 8th day, everything shifted. It started with the current. It pulled harder than his forecast predicted, dragging him off course, westward into open nothingness. Then the wind died. The air thickened, and the horizon began to blur. His satellite signal flickered red for the first time. He told himself it was a glitch. It would pass. By the next morning, the silence was deafening. It wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. He knew well it was hollow, like the world had been muted. The sea didn't hiss or whisper. It just waited. That was the day he saw it. The edge of the patch. It wasn't scattered plastic bottles or floating straws, the way textbooks described it. It was massive. A dense field of floating garbage, rising in grotesque hills and towers. Wrecked boats, twisted nets, rusted barrels, entire refrigerator doors stacked with barnacles. He passed an overturned car, a child's tricycle, a television. At one point, he saw what looked like the tail of a small aircraft sticking out of the trash like a gravestone. As he paddled deeper, the water became darker and slower, like it had grown thick. The sky above dimmed too, smudged by haze. Then came the sounds. At first, it was just static, like a low-frequency hum inside his ears. Then voices, muffled, almost like someone whispering through a broken radio. Sometimes laughter, sometimes crying, sometimes the faint sound of a woman's voice saying, "Help me." He shook it off, blamed exhaustion, blamed salt in his eyes, too much sun. But then he saw her.
She was sitting on a raft not far off, still and upright, with long, matted blonde hair. She looked like she'd been waiting. He shouted, but she didn't respond. He paddled toward her, arms burning. But no matter how fast he moved, she remained exactly the same distance away. It was as if the ocean was moving her with him, just out of reach. Eventually, she vanished behind a wall of trash. He didn't sleep that night. By the 13th day, he was hungry and dizzy. The FLIs had returned, thick clouds of them buzzing around decaying fish and forgotten waste. He hadn't seen a bird or a fish in days. He was down to dry crackers and a little peanut butter. Then, just when he began to accept the idea of turning back, he saw it. Movement. Not water. People. He blinked, thinking it was a mirage. But as he floated closer, he realized it was real, a floating colony stitched together from old boats, plastic drums, driftwood, and junk. There were walkways tied together with fishing rope, tents made from sails, and platforms where people stood quietly, watching him. A man waved. Jonas called out. He was greeted with nods and tired smiles, as if they'd been expecting him. They pulled him aboard a platform that rocked beneath his feet. There were maybe 30 people living there. A few looked healthy. Most did not. Their skin was burnt, their eyes hollow. One man claimed to have been there since 1999. They called the place Drift. Jonas couldn't believe it. They had built an entire community out here. He asked why no one had left. The man who first welcomed him simply said, "You'll see." Jonas tried to paddle away that same evening. He had to. But within minutes, his kayak became tangled in a thick mat of netting beneath the surface. His rudder snapped. The plastic wrapped around his paddle like claws. It took hours to cut himself free, hands raw and bleeding. When he made it back to drift, exhausted and shaking, he found his kayak on fire. Flames lit up the night. He screamed, furious. "Why would you do this?" he shouted. The same man looked at him with sad eyes and said quietly, "Because it's worse when you think you can escape." Jonas didn't believe it. Not yet. Over the next few days, he explored the colony. There was no order, no currency, just survival. They harvested what they could from passing ships or drifting containers. Water was filtered from rain and condensation. Food came from sealed cans or strange, pale fish caught in the depths. Most people had given up, but one face stood out. The girl, Layla. She was real. She'd been a deckhand on a cargo ship years ago. She claimed she'd escaped the patch once twice, but it always pulled her back. "You don't leave," she whispered. "You just get borrowed." They talked every night. He began to believe her. On the 25th day, a storm rolled in. It came fast, like the sea had finally made up its mind. Winds roared. Waves surged. Drift shattered like matchsticks. Jonas was thrown into the water. He grabbed hold of a net as Layla clung beside him. Her voice cut through the chaos. "Let it take us," she said. He wanted to scream, to fight it, but then everything went black. When he woke up, he was lying on a beach. Warm sand beneath him. No garbage. No colony. No Layla. Just open sky. He was rescued 2 days later by a passing cargo ship. Doctors told him he was lucky. He tried to explain what happened, but no one listened. There were no GPS logs after day 14. His footage was corrupted. His kayak was never recovered. Satellites showed nothing where he claimed drift had been. No wreckage. No people. No proof. He went home. He tried to move on. But sometimes late at night, when the air goes still and the sea is quiet, Jonas swears he can hear a soft whisper through the silence. A static crackle. A voice he knows too well. "Come back."